Let's sit tight and get going and learn. So welcome again to our Wednesday webinar on leading the innovative organization, unleashing and guiding creativity. And I should add that all our presentations are archived, and in about 3-4 days you'll see the archive files on our website. You're welcome to listen in and share this information with other people in your company, in your associations, in your professional organizations, etc. If you're interested in purchasing the slides and you haven't done that already, just let us know. We'll send you a link to the place where you can order the slides. So I want to start off by asking you a question. I find people can't generally be very creative and innovative without a goal. So let's try to set a goal for ourselves today. What are your 3 biggest leadership challenges? Again, we're trying to lead our companies to be more creative, but where? What are your biggest challenges? I'm not going to give you, it could be involving sales, it could be training people, it could be strategic alliances, it could be breaking down silos, it could be figuring out new economic business models, it could be finding out ways of taking the current technologies you have and making them obsolete, disruptive technologies that need to be introduced and existing ones retired. What are your challenges that you have in your organization? Let's put 3 of them in your mind. And with that, we can then go forward and try to see if we can answer some of the questions that relate to them. My agenda today is really to focus on leadership versus management, because there's a difference. To focus on some of the challenges of the 21st century that we need to lead creatively to get through. We'll show you how to master that innovation process, how to channel the energy to get more innovation, and then give you some suggestions on how you can practice it. Because it's all about performance. You succeed only by really engaging yourself to do it. So let's start off by just defining what I mean by leadership. It's the process of influencing members to achieve group goals that are supported, and you do that by articulating your vision. Where do you see your company ending up? What are you trying to produce? Where is the ultimate goal? The vision. Where is this company going to be 500 years from now? Think about the vision of Starbucks. Starbucks, by the way, is today the name of the company. It was once Starbucks Coffee. The name changed to reflect a change in its vision. From a third place where people can meet and enjoy the wonders of great coffee to a consumer products company that specializes in coffee and other products related to that and offers it in many, many different places. Okay, that's the vision. So you can get it as via, you can get it in an airplane, you can get it in a store, in ice cream. Okay, so once you've understood the vision, then what you need to do is ask the question, okay, how do we get there? And you need to, as a leader, understand you want to influence people to be energized and be creative, to be enthusiastic and let their imaginations run wild, which is why giving people time to do it is so important. Whether you tell people you can take time and you can use that time on a special project, but you have to go ahead and do that, or giving them an ability to look at things they want to do in a different way. Ford, many years ago, had a theme, quality is job one, and had quality work groups, something Peter Drucker had recommended, and we in this country then started taking on. At that period of time I was teaching, and one of the things that I thought about is why are we only creating quality circles who bring in people from all different people in a company to focus on quality? Why not take a look at some of the leadership challenges that we have and think of them as creative or innovative circles, where the goal is really just to think out of the box on how to handle it all. The leaders have to motivate people to act. They have to create a vehicle by which people can do things that are creative, and have to also motivate them to want to do it through reward systems, etc. And I'll mention one later on that's very interesting. They have to align the team. Critical part about leadership, because you can't have 500 people going in 500 different directions. The team needs to know where it's going, be directed, and pull the steps off to go where they're going. And they have to reinforce these members for the achievement. Again, you motivate people by giving them reinforcement at the end. So leadership isn't just about managing. It's going beyond it. It's choosing the right things to do. It's choosing the vision and the mission, how we do what we do, creating the values that are going to make our company going. And then it's the managers who get things done right. Now that we know what we're supposed to do, they build the strategic initiatives that have been identified and go ahead and produce it. They manage the cultural behaviors, the cultural mores that are there to maybe implement the direction in the right direction. So what's important is we wear, many of us, both hats. We're leaders, and then we manage the process that we've created. But in terms of understanding it, creativity and innovation are a leadership function, much more than a management function. Sheila Murray Bethel has written a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, A New Breed of Leaders, talking about how we change what we do. And she focuses on the concept of 4 different leaders, and that there are different roles we play. Some of us fall into 1 or 2 of these roles most of the time. Some of us change over time. So the examples of people who generally could be identified more often in those groups. Okay? So when we take a look at it, for example, we look at an enlightener, someone like Martin Luther King, who's committing us to a cause, getting us to see a vision of where the world could be and getting us involved with the cause itself. Creators are actually inspired geniuses. What they're really doing as a leader is rolling up their sleeves, producing some of the new models that they have, creating new things, and using themselves as a role model for creativity, producing innovation. A third type of leader is a builder who takes the long-term, builds a long-term successful company, someone like Jack Welch or Andy Grove, which is Intel. And what they're doing is they're using the creativity on the operational side, on the strategic side of building the company that has the ability to maintain itself over time. But then they turn it over very often to a new group of leaders, people who are team builders, people who know how to follow through and make things happen, which was what they were looking for in Jeff Immelt when he became the CEO of General Electric. So there are different kinds of leaders, and some of us can wear many of these hats, and some can't. And that becomes an important part of what to understand. And understanding that the leader wears many roles. They create and articulate the vision, which is their head trip. Their heart is their passion. They're energized and mobilizing people. And then their guts. They're willing to step out and try to do things. So if you think about Apple, for example, clearly an innovative culture that's been driven by Steve Jobs. He first produced the Newton, which didn't succeed, and then they got rid of it and moved on. But they came back because they never lost the vision. Creating a mobile communication device was the goal. And now with iPod and all of the kinds of things, iPhones, iPad, we have a whole new way of taking it. So it's a full commitment that takes place over time, but sometimes in different places. And recognize that it isn't only the top leaders that do it, but in fact, every one of us is a leader. And we have to involve ourselves at a 360 level to spur the creativity and to encourage the innovation by everyone around us, on top, on bottom, whatever. And in fact, I also serve as chairman of Vistage New York, which is a CEO organization. And one of the things, and some of the people that I'm recruiting for our group, we talk about is that their challenges aren't the people who work for them, the people they delegate work to, their peers, their subordinates, but actually people in parent companies that they have to spur to creatively see their own company very differently. So if you've understood what leadership is, that it's a full commitment, involves all the people, then I think you're ready now to start facing some of the 21st century challenges. And I love this, that the best way to predict the future is to control it. And that's really what we're all about today. So thank you for being here. So let's take a look at some of the challenges. Well, the first one is that the world is flat, as Thomas Friedman tells us. It's a very small world. We could today communicate instantly. In fact, if you read today's Wall Street Journal, there's a great article, how many software companies, Salesforce being an example, are adopting the concepts involved with social media such as Facebook within their software because they know that people want to talk to each other without having to go in and out of another package of email, but chat with them in any of these packages. The world is flat both physically and virtually. Today we have companies that are multinationals. Companies for the last 20 years have been moving their headquarters out of the United States into other countries such as China. That what we're doing is trading and outsourcing with foreign partners is just a normal, average, everyday thing. It didn't happen 50 years ago. So the challenges have changed. How do you run a virtual company? How do you sell to all these different foreign markets and customers? I teach at Baruch MBA and undergraduate programs, and right now we're into how how to enter and succeed in foreign markets. And one of the great stories that we read, I had my students reading today, is an article called Oreos, as in the Oreo cookie. Oreos are universal. And it talks about how Oreos by Kraft were in fifth place for years in the market in China. They brought in a new person to take that market and decided to do some research, and based on that realized that the Oreo round cookie that we're all used to needed to be reformulated into a wafer, changed, that other habits like using milk with it has to be changed. And by making those changes to sell to that market, then, and doing this very creatively, it became the #1 product, and which is what it is now in its category. So the challenges for companies are being in different places, working with different people, which means listening to the customer, listening to your partners, listening to other people. The organizational challenges, therefore, are the processes by which we accomplish this goal. Are we using instant communications? Are we using technology that keeps advancing? It's a moving gun. We can't have what we used yesterday as our solution tomorrow, because the world will change. Remember Gordon Moore's law, every 18 months, the technology, the basic power of the chip doubles. The innovator's dilemma. What do you do when you have a great technology today, but it becomes obsolete tomorrow? Do you disrupt it yourself? Do you make it become obsolete? Okay? Creative destruction, it's called. Do you get rid of your floppy disks to be able to flash fast drives? Do you get rid of your servers to be able to work through the cloud? That the workforce today is virtual. Increasingly, people are doing gigs. They're doing it from different countries through outsourcing to different parts of the market. They're working at different time schedules. A completely creative challenge that has to be addressed in terms of how to get people to still be on the same team. I always use, when I teach, as I said, management, one of the issues that I've dealt with for many years is how NASA was such a pioneer in what it did. Because up till then, we only had two basic business models for organizations. The first being functional. We divided into sales, marketing, administration, etc. The second is products or geographic units. So business units might be a product like a P&G. It could be Crest. It could be Tide, things like that. Or it could be geography, North America, Europe, etc. And so in 1960s, when John F. Kennedy told us we need to be able to go to the moon and bring people back safely by the end of the decade, a new kind of model needed to be done where people worked on a project but can be moved around and around and around as different challenges came in. It became known as matrix management. Completely different model, harder to work with, but creatively lets people free their juices to work on the projects that are needed and that they want to work on. And Sales and Chandler wrote about it, managing large systems from Columbia University in 1969. And that's basically the state of the art until this last 10 years. Now the state of the art, unfortunately, is represented by Al-Qaeda, where you have what I'll call the octopus organization, the totally virtual organization where people may never see each other, may never talk to each other eyeball to eyeball, but the goal is to get them so committed that, unfortunately, these people are willing to give their lives for the cause. Just imagine you did that for IBM or HP or something like that kind of dedication. Okay? And today we also have to understand that workers have different motivations. It's not just making money. Time is a big issue for today's American workforce, but we have different generations. Each generation has a different approach. So organizationally, we have to be innovative in figuring out how to unleash these different forces to make them work. So the leaders today have to figure out how they're going to improve on communication so they can listen to customers, listen to employees, and feed back the information they need. They have to decide whether it's face-to-face or technological communications, which works, when it works, how it works different. The level in which we do what we do has to be that much more intense. We have to be much more sharp in terms of how we're doing it. We need to be sensitive to the different cultures we're coming from, that words mean different things, patterns mean different things, sensitivities mean different things. And we need to understand all of the different touch points that we have with our customers. We meet some of them at a product design. Okay, we do some of them in terms of branding, marketing, okay, customer service. Just try to think about how you build a company organizationally that responds to these different issues. So you take a company like Zappos, most recent example, where customer service is the new touch point. By saying to people, you can try on as many shoes as you want to and return them, and we pay for everything. We pay for the shipping, and you can return. Don't worry about it. You just find what you're looking for, and people very friendly take it back, and it's allowed it to grow into a billion-dollar-plus company. It is the leadership that takes a look at how do we do these things better. How do we turn branding into a vision message, like Starbucks coffee becomes Starbucks, like Apple computer becomes Apple, and becomes something that consistently now lets people understand the new vision of where we're going, and they get people to be aligned to deliver that new message. So the solutions are you have to stay professional. You need to stay current on what's happening, and what you need to do is focus on where these trends are taking you. And that's part of being innovative and creative, staying current on it and moving. And then take each of the goals that you want to achieve. Remember, we started off with 3 challenges you had. So what 3 goals may be that you'd want to focus on each one, and focus on them appropriately by using the SMART technology, where you can achieve each one, measure your achievement of it over a period of time, and feel good about what you're doing. And you do that. You create these solutions, you create the goals by unleashing that creativity, and then building a system to sustain the innovation. So if you think about it, in the old days, one of the solutions was to have a suggestion box. Okay? So people put a box out there, and why did that not work? Because most people knew no one was taking the stuff from the paper and taking it seriously. There was no feedback. There was no sense of use. There was no reward system. There's a company recently that I was reading about that was interested in trying to get its software technicians to introduce new ideas that could be done. And so as part of its recruitment system, it's created a stock market in which every new employee gets $10,000 worth of cash, for which you can use to buy ideas in a stock market. And so everybody has an incentive now, if they want to be able to suggest an idea, list it on the stock market, and people bid for that stock. And why is it done this way? Well, the recognition is this isn't a place where people like to publicly go out and promote their own ideas. What they rather do is share their ideas, because these people tend to be introverts instead of extroverts, and the market allows the best ideas by the best minds to really get more people interested in buying that stock. So no stock drops below. Every stock starts at $10. Anything below that's going to fall apart. Anything above it has a chance of going. And then every year the top few stocks are the ones that are then turned into products. And there's a reward to each of the software engineers who suggested it as a creative new idea, any new product. And this company is producing 20% of its products so far coming right out of the ideas from employees. So think of the difference here. Day one of the cultural messages, we want you to be creative. We have a sustained innovative system that's going to allow us to stay that way. So now, with that as an idea, let's really master the innovative cycle. So let's first, again, I've been using the words creativity and innovation, but I want to make sure you understand the difference. Creativity is breaking down prior assumptions and making new connections for new ideas. In many ways, creativity is the province of the individual brain. Innovation is taking those new ideas and turning them into corporate marketplace reality, turning them into products and services that could be used and done. Very often the innovation can come from the group as it's pulling together some of those creative ideas. So innovations turn creativity into the bottom line results. Okay? And it isn't limited, as we discussed earlier before, it's not limited to R&D departments, and a company that thinks that's the only place creativity can come from is missing the point. It can come from anybody in any place. It can come from individuals, from the organizations. It comes from the different disciplines. The trick is to understand that innovation can come from anywhere because all people are creative. In fact, Ivan Seidenberg, who's the CEO of Verizon for a little bit longer, makes this point very clearly. That innovation is the heart of any strategy. It's the key to driving his company with Fios and other kinds of products and services, and the new management will obviously continue his process. Jeff Immelt at General Electric makes the same point. Innovation is so critical, it's the only long-term source of profit. The point is the leaders understand it, and therefore champion it. And that's the key to mastering the process, leaders taking the list. So the first thing you have to do is take a look and say, where do we have? What are my challenges? Is it manufacturing, service, customer expectations? organizational structures. Where am I trying to make my differences? And then try to understand that overlap sequence between people, processes, and products. How can we find that area in which people can use a product and do it differently? For example, once upon a time there was something we all used on paper called newspapers. When the first digital arena came about, we took the newspapers and we literally regurgitated them in the same kind of format on computers. But the computer is a different medium, and therefore for us to serve the news that was once before served on paper on a digital format, you need to really create a different process by which people interact with the news, see it, read it, hear it, feel it. Today's newspapers can be filled with lots of links to different kinds of articles, etc. You go to Wikipedia and there's all kinds of links to things. So the result is the stagnant format that was in print, whether it's an encyclopedia or a newspaper, doesn't belong in the year 2012 in terms of how the tablets, if the iPad or other tablets are going to communicate it. And so many of the media companies are now working on whole new ways of providing us with access to the information. Again, creativity in terms of how people process information, see information, want to use it, is what people are working on. What the leader champion therefore has to do is nurture the individuals and teams to be creative and become innovative. And that's why from the very beginning I made this point, it's a cultural issue. The leader who's a champion of creativity and innovation has to champion the issue by turning it into an everyday concept and comment and make sure it's there. Promotes and nurtures the innovation so that it can sustain corporate growth. And if they do that, one of the ways they do it is constantly taking everything they do and see how it can set new standards for the industry, how it can create new experiences for the customer, how it can transform one or more industries. That's what a leader champion does, whether you're Steve Jobs at Apple, or Sam Palisano over at IBM. They're changing the standards, they're creating new expectations, they're actually transforming whole industries. So what is the leader's role? If a leader is committed to creativity and innovation, that role is really very clear. It's to communicate the vision, it's to create the freedom to control one's own workplace and ideas, to give them their time and engine to be able to do it. It's to identify the best resources to make it possible, and then understand that, in a sense, the leader has to form and protect the team. Because unfortunately, the status quo is always there and is always the enemy. And at the same level, the inertia is the individual preference to not change. So you have to focus on that and help prod the team to keep moving toward the goal. You have to understand from the outside, any new technological change you may make, or process make, or financial decision you may make that brings creativity to the innovative table has another problem. And that is, it's going to shake people outside of your team. And so there are going to be resistances within the organization to whatever you're putting on the table. And so what you need to do is understand that you, as a leader, have power. And you have to manage that relationship with the outside forces to be able to take the necessary steps to stop the resistances. It's a reason that when the PC revolution started early 80s, companies that were developing new computers created what are called skunkworks projects, where what they did is they took a few people and they creatively took them out of the normal environment, put them in a different city, state, different building, and gave them the freedom to go create what they wanted to do so that nobody could interfere and wouldn't do what very often happens with dissenters, which is to say, you can't do this. The goal here was just to feed off of the creative energy if anything is possible. So innovation, it works because the culture encourages it. So you create a culture of challenge, freedom, risk-taking, giving people time for an idea and support to go ahead and do it. There's playfulness, there's humor that's part of that thing. So when you look at the creative companies, you see they have games, they have pool tables, they have balls, they do all kinds of things that they're doing. They're changing it. It's alive. They welcome debates, healthy debates. One of the things that's fascinating about a great innovative culture is that there's plenty of disagreement, but there is very little conflict because there's a trusted feeling that everyone's providing the best that they have in exchange for getting the best that someone else has. And that's the way you move it forward. So as you're working on that culture, as you're prodding your people to use their creative energies and rewarding them when they do and encouraging teamwork to produce innovation, you also have to recognize they're going to be dissenters in the group. And one of the rules that I think is very important is to understand that dissenters play a critical role. They're not to be stifled. They're not to be stopped. What they are to be done is to be channeled to take it. So when they have a dissent, hear what they have to say. How are they challenging the status quo? Because the answer is you're now creating a new force that might be the status quo and needs to be challenged. And encourage that dissenter to say, okay, if you don't think this works, what's your better idea? And force others to challenge some of the assumptions that are there. In other words, the best way to lead change is to encourage dissent and to manage the dissenters. Don't suppress them. The Cuban Missile Crisis, which for those of you who remember your history, took place in 1962, 61, 62, and what happened there was very 62 was very successful because the Bay of Pigs invasion, which happened 6 months, 9 months earlier, was a failure. And the reason it was a failure, according to Schlesinger, who wrote the book on the first 1,000 days of the Kennedy administration, what had happened there was that people were coming up with ideas that we could go and help the Cuban immigrants who were here in America, the refugees in Miami that felt they could go back and storm Cuba and create a popular uprising, that everyone thought it was a great thing to do. It was the moral goal. It was a terrific idea, but nobody challenged it. Would it work? Why might not work, etc. And felt that there had been no devil's advocate in the group. There was no dissenter who was challenging the ideas. And that was the reason it was a fiasco, because once we didn't provide the air cover that was needed, and once these Cuban refugees went into Cuba, they were welcomed with open arms, as they thought, except not by the people, but by the military of Castro. So the question was, if you don't want that to happen, you have to have people challenge it. And I think the Cuban Missile Crisis was a great example of the group now challenging all the assumptions, putting all the issues on the table, coming up with a creative idea, not to go bomb the missiles in Cuba, but to instead create an embargo and force Russia's, in that case the Soviet Union's, hand in claiming they didn't have anything on their ships, but then say that they were going to board them and realize that the whole world would then discover they were lying and force them to go back and change it. So what you need to do is leverage the input of the dissenters to actually produce a superior product and idea. So if you've done that, you've not created the culture, you've incorporated dissenters into your system so that you're open to it, you now have to practice it, because like anything, practice leads to being perfect. And that's what I think is important about today's conversation, that great leaders consistently produce great results by getting people to deliberately practice their mindset, that everybody can be creative, their skill sets, helping people apply some of the innovative, some of the creative energies they have to innovations to do it, and create system enablers like the stock market idea, which is a great idea that this company uses. And so what they need to do is coach people to be able to do it and provide them with feedback on the ideas. So the stock market, again, is a great one, because at the end of the day, they know all the ideas in this company that are there, and they can rate them, etc. And based on success, something that might not have been thought a great idea suddenly could turn out to be a great idea, and encouraged to do that by the people. So bringing every idea to the light of day becomes an interesting part. You need, as a leader, to encourage it, to coach people, and to provide the feedback so that they can continue the process. If you follow this advice as a leader, encouraging people to be creative, creating teams that allow dissent to have time to work on innovative projects, you will produce great results. Just like the conductor, you'll produce mellifluous sound, and you'll feel the reality that everyone feels they're part of a team. Not a group, but they're all part of a team producing the results. And you as a leader will be a hero. And as you know, at Presentation Excellence, we get up very early in the morning, work late at night and weekends if necessary, help our clients with whatever their project is, because that's our goal, is to make every one of our clients a hero. And with that, I want to thank you for attending today's webinar. If you have any questions about creativity, innovation, and how to manage the process, please feel free to send an email to me at any of the different ones I have. Presentation Excellence obviously is a company that focuses on presentations, leader presence, coaching senior leaders to become more effective as leaders, to be able to have more impact in everything they say. And for those of you who are especially in New York, we have an organization called Leader Connections that we work with, which invites great leaders who generally are very creative and spur innovation in their companies to be able to influence other people. And there is going to be an executive forum on May 19th, which is celebrating the achievements of Michael Thalquist of Viridian Energy, and it's an opportunity to learn from him in terms about leadership and sustained growth. And we encourage you to come. Go to leaderconnections.com and you'll learn about it. You have my number there, etc. And with that, I'm going to end today's